Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today, and I wanted to talk about why I bought a Yamaha WR250R in 2020 and realistically buying it so close to the new year, looking into 2021 as a long-term purchase. I thought I'd give you a bit of an idea about, some of the competition that I was looking at. I've got an old DRZ 400E that I kind of bought for the adventure style riding, and I guess the one issue I've had is that it's super loud, and I like a loud exhaust, I like a nice note on it, but I'm not into super loud bikes, and so that probably was a little thing that detracted from that particular bike for me. However, what I really liked about the WR250R is the fact it's fuel injected. Obviously, like the DRZ 400, there's a heap of aftermarket accessories that you can get for these bikes. They've got great communities built around them. They've got a great reputation. And these bikes are going to be phased out very, very quickly because they don't meet Euro 5 emissions. And I kind of looked at it as a last chance to buy one. And because I was selling my Daytona 675R, I wanted to buy new. I wanted to buy a bike with no problems. Obviously, it means that I've got to buy all the accessories, which is an additional cost over buying one secondhand that someone's done all that adventure stuff to. But I thought that was part of the project, and I really want to get it into adventure form. I want to do a lot of stuff to it, but buying new, I wanted the reliability, I wanted the fuel injection. It's not too loud. I probably will end up putting a different exhaust on it just to give it a little bit more of an exhaust note, but I didn't want it as loud as the DRZ is just with the stock exhaust. And I tested one of these bikes last year and I was super impressed with it. And that was the Yamaha Australia Tenere 250R, which was just a WR250R, safari tank, safari fairing, couple of tasteful mods done to it to get it into an adventure form, and it was an exceptional motorcycle. And these things aren't super powerful, but they'll tractor over anything. In a lot of ways, this motorcycle kind of fits me as a person where I am in my life at the moment. And not to say that I don't love my Daytona 675R, but it's just a lot harder to justify that these days, I've got to say. Obviously I'm not going to be getting a knee down, but I can go out and do a different type of riding. I want to build up my adventure riding skills, and I think that'll improve my riding in general. But as far as the competition, I've got to say, some of the other bikes I considered, DRZ 400E, being carbed kind of took it off my list. I think it's a great machine, but that was just something that I didn't want, and also being too loud. Apart from that, the KTM 390 Adventure was something I also considered because the 390 Adventure is actually a little bit cheaper than this bike, but the focus of that bike is much more on the road side of things. It doesn't have as much clearance, it doesn't have as much suspension travel, and also, you can probably tell this bike's already been through the wars a little bit, and I've only done one big adventure ride on it so far. I wanted something that if I dropped it, if I crashed it and stuff like that, that I wouldn't have to worry about too much. So the more adventure and the more dirt bike styled bike was the obvious option, because on something more road orientated, you just don't want to crash it. I mean, obviously you can, but I didn't want to. That's not what I was after. So I did trade off some of the better highway capability of something like the 390 Adventure for the more kind of pure dirt bike style theme of this particular bike. And obviously on this bike you're getting some spoked wheels. It's very minimalistic, and there are some disadvantages to that, like the very small fuel tank, which is something I'm going to have to kind of find a solution to. But at the end of the day, this kind of ticked all the boxes, where the 390 Adventure, as much as I loved it, I wanted something that I could really just take out into the bush and not worry about at all. And the same was true of the Svartbilen 401, really cool, street tracker style motorcycle with the spoked wheels. Really, really cool machine. If you were just doing a little bit of dirt tracks and things like that, fire trails, really simple fire trails, I think that'd do the job. However, like I said, I wanted something that was basically just a dirt bike for the road that I could take on the freeway and cruise along quite comfortably. Again, that was another advantage over the DRZ 400E. This thing cruises on the freeway, 120, 130, no problems at all, feels quite nice. The DRZ, not quite so much. That sixth gear, the kind of really just an overdrive gear, really does an exceptional job. The other thing I considered was a DRZ 400 SM, which was a much more attractive option over the DRZ 400E if I was buying new to me, because when I rode that, I loved it. It was an awesome machine. And then it'd be a matter of getting some dirt tires and dirt wheels to put on it and doing maybe the swap thing. But as it was, I wanted to start with the dirt side of things. So obviously, this bike was something that I'd ridden before, I really liked. I liked the modification potential. I knew there was a lot of support for it. I knew it was a reliable machine. They've got an absolutely exceptional reputation in the industry, particularly if you talk to someone like Greg Yeager from Ride ADV. They use these as their fleet bikes for a long while. They've got Tenere 700s now. I didn't go the Tenere 700 because me and my wife do want a larger bike for doing some touring style riding. And so it made more sense to get something a little bit more kind of real hardcore off-road for me, just to use on my own, than going the Tenere 700, because it's not really going to be a bike you'd want to do 1,000 kilometer with a pillion on the back ride on. It's more of, you know, you could put someone on the back, but it's not a touring style machine for two. So we'll look at getting a touring style machine for doing that kind of stuff. And then I've got this, which kind of really fits what I'm after. Now, as far as my WR250R, I've really only done the one adventure ride, as I mentioned, and that was the Nowra Destination Yamaha ride. So it was like a guided adventure ride, took us through some really cool tracks. I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't properly had a nice adventure ride in quite a while, and it took me a little bit of time to come back to terms with that style of riding off-road, because I don't have a background in off-road riding, which is really what I want to improve on this bike. And that did mean that I crashed quite a bit to start off with before I really got back into that rhythm where I realized the bike will tractor over almost anything at all. What was holding me back was my lack of confidence and a little bit of forward planning of where I was going on the trails or the fire trails that we were on. And for that reason, as you can see, the things that I did first was I got the sump guard on, I got some bark buster guards on as well. Both of those things, such a good investment. I lost a mirror and I've got some double take mirrors on the way. I'm gonna be doing videos on the installation of everything I put on and some thoughts on them in a separate video. And I'll be doing that with these accessories, but really happy that I put that little bit of crash protection on, because it definitely saved the levers multiple times. I managed to drop the bike on both sides. Mostly pretty simple crashes, just pure incompetence on my part, but they did a great job. And certainly when you hear all the rocks pinging up and hitting the sump guard instead of hitting the engine, that's a really, really good thing. And of course, those are both Australian accessories. Those are the Bark Buster handguards and they're the B&B sump guards. I've got some more B&B accessories to fit to the bike as well, which is something I liked. I like the idea of getting some Australian accessories and supporting local businesses, because, you know, at the moment, it's all about that. I've scratched up the exhaust, scratched up the swing arm a little bit, but what I love about this bike is that's why I bought this bike. I bought it because I can do that, and that's what this bike's for. A couple of scratches on the plastics and things like that. Who really cares? It's really just a sign that I'm doing what I was meant to do on this bike and having a bit of fun. The only other thing I did was I put the Seat Concept seat on. The big ride I had to do about 200 kilometers to get there on the freeway. I had to do about 250 kilometers to get home, and then we were doing the riding during the day. And I gotta say, the bike handled it so well. It was about 700 kilometers in a day. The trails and the adventure part of it was about 200 Ks, which is not a heap of kilometers coming from a road perspective, but it takes a lot longer to cover that kind of ground, especially when you're slow like me. And I gotta apologize to the guys on the Nowra Destination Yamaha ride, because I was definitely the slowest person there. Towards the end of the day, I felt like I picked up the pace a little bit. Still certainly not leading or anything like that, but at least I was kind of keeping the pace going, which is all thanks to the WR250R, because it's such an easy thing to ride, and really it's just, you know, an awesome machine. And certainly if I'd been on a Svartpilen or a 390 Adventure, there's no way I would have been tackling the stuff I did on this. And again, that comes back to why I picked this particular machine. Now, obviously, for 2021, we've got the CRF 300L and the rally version. And in America, they're getting the Kawasaki KLX 300L, I think it's called. So they have basically moved up to the next engine capacity. Now, one of the reasons I picked this bike over the 250s is it has a fair bit more power, better suspension. It's a fair bit more expensive as well, but I definitely felt that investment was worth it. For me, I'm about 70 kilos. The stock suspension is pretty good. I can definitely see I'll be spending a bit of money getting that done up by somebody, one of the local suspension places, because there's room for improvement. But I think for starting off, for my level of riding particularly, it's going to be great for a while, and that was one of the advantages over those bikes. But obviously in the new year, we're seeing those 300s come out. The 300 Honda kind of matches the 250 from Yamaha as far as horsepower now, but it's going to have more torque. And I guess the question you could ask is, would I have thought about buying one of those? Maybe, but they're not out yet. They're not going to be out for a while. And like I said, proven platform, lots and lots of aftermarket accessories, even though probably the 250 accessories will probably fit on that 300. But at the end of the day, I'm really, really happy with this choice. And we haven't heard an announcement about Kawasaki bringing the 300, the road registrable 300 in. And I got to be honest, I'm really interested in riding those and seeing how they compare to the Yamaha. Again, like I said, really, really happy with this choice. I really want to basically just flog it like nothing else to improve my riding skills, because everyone says riding off-road is a great way of improving your riding skills. I'm probably not such a track person, if I'm really honest, and I think this will give me the opportunity to do that. Anyway, that's some initial thoughts about the reasoning behind why I bought the WR250R in 2020 and into 2021. There are some great other options out there. I think this was the one that fit the bill most closely, and like I keep saying, I wanted the real kind of off-road bike that I could ride on the road, and I didn't feel like I was trading off too much of the road riding, as opposed to coming from the other direction, being on a road machine which had some off-road capabilities. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. This is going to be my project bike for the next year, really. I'm going to be doing a heap of accessories to it. I'm going to be doing videos on it. If you've got any questions relating to why I bought it or anything like that, or anything you're interested in seeing me do on the bike, please let me know. And hopefully I'm also going to be doing a heap of rides this year that I'll be doing videos on. And the Destination Yamaha Nowra ride, I'll be doing a video on that shortly in the next week. I'm just putting that together at the moment, so stay tuned for that as well. That was a great ride. And at the end of the day, it's a very good value ride for someone who's looking to go and do adventure rides, but they don't want to just be out there on their own, because if something goes wrong on your own, you can be in a lot of trouble, compared to on the road, where obviously you can still get into a lot of trouble. But I would definitely say on the road, the expectations of crashing or anything like that is very, very low. When you're doing the adventure riding, I think it's more likely. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the WR250R. That's why I bought one. If you've enjoyed the video, hit that notification bell if you'd like to see what I do to the bike and kind of the follow-ups, and I'm going to do a review on it in pretty much stock form, everything I put on it, all the rides I do, everything like that. As always, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.